My name is Matt Steakley. I am a senior at Stevenson High School and the Utica Center for Science and Industry. I am both in the mechatronics and engineering pathway. For my 2018 CSI Capstone project, I wanted to do something mechanical on my first car, a 2001 Mustang GT. The car needed work, and since I've rebuilt the front and rear suspension, brakes, changed the rear gear, along with rebuilding the rear end, after fixing what seemed like a million electrical issues, it was time for the transmission. It was between going down the drag strip dozens of times and lack of previous maintenance. It was not working like it should, and it was time for a performance rebuild that would work perfect on both the street and hold up to hard launches at the track. For my project, I needed to first take the transmission out of the car, which is easier said than done. After disconnecting everything on it and had it sitting on the table, I started taking pictures. Almost everything I did, I took a picture of. I did this for two reasons. First, so I would have pictures for this project, but also as a reference when putting it back together. I took the entire transmission apart down to almost every piece, cleaned it in a parts washer, and put it back together with some performance parts. After taking off the pan and the fluid filter, it was very overwhelming, but after I slowed down and took a step-by-step, it wasn't that hard, just a lot of attention to detail. Just like this. It looks like an O-ring, but it's really a gasket. It has a V-shape formed into it, and it must go in a certain way, or else the high-pressure seal wouldn't do its job. When I ordered the parts for this job, I wanted to do some performance upgrades as well. I did this by putting in new and stronger clutches and a new overdrive band. I also put a shift kit in where I had to replace small valves and springs like this one and this one, in something as complex as this. Something I found really interesting is how reverse works. Instead of your motor spinning in the opposite direction, there is a drum with a set of planetary gears and a sun gear inside. Normally that drum spins with the sun gear and planetary gears traveling in the same direction. But when the driver puts the car in reverse, there is a band that locks around the rotation of the drum so that the gears spin in the opposite direction of the sun gear. Just prior to install, I went ahead and laid everything out in the correct order just to make sure everything was in the right places, cleaned, and nothing was lost. To install everything, I went ahead and turned the case sideways to make sure that everything was seated right, using gravity to help me out. One of the first issues that I ran into was that I found this piece right here, which is the tailstock, was actually cracked in one of the corners. So I had to find a new one of those. Now the first time I went to go reinstall all of the parts, one thing was not seated all the way. So a snap ring that goes at the very end would not fit into a machine groove. Similar to the snap ring, the torque converter was not put on all the necessary splines of the transmission the first time. So when we went to attach it to the motor, there was not enough clearance. So the entire transmission had to come back out of the car, fixed, and then put back in. When I ordered a new drive shaft, they cut it correctly, but they put a shorter flange on the end. So when I installed it, it was not long enough and caused the transmission to leak fluid. Because of this, I had to put the stock drive shaft back in. On this unit, there's a high-tension spring being held in place by a snap ring. In order to get the snap ring out, I had to make a tool to compress the spring, but still be able to work around it.